We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Rivers?
Here.
Commissioner Way?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Flowers?
Here.
Commissioner West?
Here.
A couple of months ago, I noticed that the County Commission, the City Commission, the Anastasia Mosquito Control Board, and all the other boards had an invocation of some kind at the very beginning. And what I had hoped to do would be to have each commissioner take turns to either say the invocation or to get someone to say it in your place. If I'm elected chairman, I'd like to instigate that for the rest of the meetings that we have for the remainder of the year. And I've been doing it myself the last couple of meetings, but I'll do it again today. But next week or the next meeting, we would start revolving if everyone's in agreement. So may we ask God's blessing on this meeting. Dear Lord, we ask you to be with us, be in our hearts and our minds as we deliberate the affairs that are before us. Guide us in the way that you would have us to go. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, now, I'd like to, before we do the adoption of the agenda, if it's agreeable with everybody, I'd like to move A, swearing in of new commissioners, to next, right after the prayer. Is that agreeable with everybody?
Yep.
And I'd like to say, before we do that, congratulations to Commissioner Way on your victory.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say welcome to Jane West as our newest member.
Thank you.
So our attorney, Mr. Meek, would you swear in our new member?
Certainly, and I don't know if there's any particular requests as far as persons being available before or after, but I'm happy to do whatever's most accommodating for photographs.
Okay, thanks.
But in lieu of that, if you could each raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution
that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution
and government of the United States
and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold
that I'm duly qualified to hold
office
under the Constitution of the state,
office
under the Constitution of the state.
and that I will well and faithfully
I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of
perform the duties of
Commissioner of the St. Augustine Port, Waterway, and Beach District Commission,
Commissioner of the Port and Waterway and Beach District Commission,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
on which I'm about to enter, so help me God.
Congratulations to each of you.
Thank you, and again, welcome. Now I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt and approve the agenda as it was amended.
I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, we'll go down to public comment for 5 minutes, beginning now.
Good afternoon. Ed Slavin, box 3084, edslavin.com, staugustgreen.com. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Commissioner Way and Commissioner West on their election. And it's been a long time coming. This is the first time there have been 2 women on this board. And that oath that y'all just swore includes fealty to the First Amendment and Florida Statute 119 and 286, and we know that's going to be complied with from now on. I want to talk about the 7-generation test, which I've talked about before, the column I had in the St. Augustine Record a while back. Every decision that this board makes needs to consider the 7-generation test, which is what effect is this government's actions going to have on the life here in St. Augustine and St. Johns County in 7 generations? Hopefully, the place will still be here. Hopefully, it won't be underwater. But because of global climate change, we're in trouble. And this district needs to deal with that seriously and scientifically. I have suggested in the past that you have Dr. Michael Shirley present. I'd like to suggest now, again, and as I've done for several times, would you please appoint a new liaison to the GTM NER? The prior occupant of that position who encumbered it for 20 years was Barry Mark Benjamin, who rarely attended meetings. We need somebody who can go to those meetings and participate and represent this district and report back to it and report back to the people about what GTM and NER is doing and how this district can cooperate with it and with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of the Interior and all the other government agencies, state and federal and local. But first of all, we have to talk about the problems because as Al Gore said in his book in 1992, Earth in the Balance, America has been like a dysfunctional family in talking about environmental problems. At last, we finally have an environmental attorney on this board. I'm so proud she's here. I remember in this room, by the way, St. Augustine Beach doesn't have prayers. Not everybody has prayers. You don't have to have prayers. 5-4 Supreme Court decisions. It's up to y'all, not you. Anyway, and I don't know how I vote on that, but I don't think you should decide, Mr. Vice Chairman. You weren't even elected as chairman after Barry Mark Benjamin quit. Barry Mark Benjamin was not a registered voter in St. Johns County. He was illegally voting from a boat at 65 Lewis Boulevard. Thanks to Commissioner Flowers blowing the whistle, and I did a 120-paragraph complaint, Barry Mark Benjamin finally quit. But some of y'all have had very tight relationships with him, and I think you knew that he lived, as a matter of fact, in Jacksonville with his wife and mother. He illegally voted here. He was illegally served as chairman, and that's wrong. Anyway, GTM NER, this illegally serving unjust steward was our liaison to them for years. Could you all please pick somebody today, please add it to the agenda, and name a liaison from the Port and Waterway District to the GTM NER? And the problem here, I mean, in 1937 this district was created. 1939, 2 years later, the St. Augustine National Historical Park and National Seashore was proposed by our then mayor, Walter Fraser, and by the then congressmen and senators from Florida. And this district, apparently, from what we were able to find in the library, in the office in City Hall, apparently never did anything in support. It needs to do something in support, and we need to help give Congress a goose to get that accomplished. We're talking about 140,000 acres in 2 counties, current government-owned land, Guana, the state parks, the state forests, the water management district land. You put it all together, and that's a vast amount of acreage we can use to help cope with global climate change and global warming. Denying it does not do it. I don't buy when a couple of you gentlemen have denied the existence of global warming and global climate change. It's over. It's science. Just like President Biden was elected. Math, science. We need to respect those. And on the project down south here, which I'd like to ask the Learned Counsel through the chair, when are we going to file a lawsuit against the engineering firm that was responsible for that and the contractor that was responsible for that? We've wasted a lot of government funds here, and we don't have any accountability. The prior attorney never did a lawsuit, never got back to y'all, kept throwing the can down the road, kicking the can down the road. We need to hear some answers on that. And we need to have accountability. But please elect someone, please someone volunteer or someone nominate someone to serve on the GTM NER as our liaison. Let's put on the agenda scientific briefings. And also the engineering professor, I gave you her contact information, who is an expert on this project down south here that is such a colossal fiasco that you haven't sued about. Please invite Dr. Shirley and her and others to present, and let's do workshops. These 2-hour meetings, one afternoon a week, that doesn't really cut it. We need to roll up your sleeves and get to work. Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you, Ed.
Any other comments from the public? All right, we'll move on down to, by the way, when I was welcoming people, I really should have welcomed Clay Meek, too. He officially became a part of our staff, I guess you would say, on last meeting, but we're glad to have you with us, Clay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Government officials. Who wants to go first? Jim Pickett.
Jim Pickett, City of St. Augustine. First of all, I want to congratulate Chris Way for being reelected and Commissioner Jane West for being elected. Welcome to the board. Also want to introduce someone that's been here a few times and maybe you haven't met him yet, but Corey Stockard. Corey is the one that handles all the grants in the city, and he's solely in charge of removing all the derelict boats and vessels, not just in the city, but in the port boundaries, working with grants from this board here with FIND and also FWC. So he does a lot of work in that area. One of the things I do want to bring up today is we have a derelict boat that is south of the 312 bridge. It's a 41-foot sailboat. It's right up against the channel, if you will, and it's not in a great shape to just pull out easily. We got an estimate from the boat company that's under contract with, and it's $17,220. This is in the Port District. It's outside the city limits. And if you remember Jerry Whitehead, when he came up here, I think it was March or April, basically said, you know, any of the big boats that's hard to get to, FWC would pay for. FWC has no more money. They are out. So we're coming to you to see if you want to finance the $17,220.
Is it the one that's submerged or the one that's high and dry?
It's beached.
It's beached at low tide and it's right there on the edge of the channel.
And they can't yank that thing out at a mean high?
No.
Is that the one up against Fish Island?
Yeah.
Who's doing the salvaging at that
Well, why
point?
don't you come on up so you can give more specifics? Yes.
Pardon me. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Yes, we recently went out with a request for proposals for contractors to come out and basically pull, tow, and demolish these vessels all in one movement. The city selected TSI Disaster Recovery out of Melbourne, Florida, and they were supposed to start pulling 4 vessels this week for the FWC grant we currently have. They got sidetracked by the West Coast Inland Navigation District. They had several vessels that posed a public safety hazard after last week's tropical storm Eta. So they deferred, they told me they got activated to go take care of 3 or 4 sailboats over there. So they've deferred. They'll be here on November 30th to start pulling those 4 vessels. And the idea is we just got approval from the FWC to remove this vessel. And we thought while they're here to reduce mobilization costs, let's see if we can't add this vessel on also. The FWC recently has had a lot of their funding for the derelict vessels pulled back because I guess it's been reallocated due to a lot of the COVID funding. So at the moment, the FWC doesn't have any more money. The city was fortunate enough to slide that grant in for those 4 vessels like right at the last minute. So.
Do they know the owners of the boats? Their FL numbers on any of the hulls, or?
No, the FL number is unknown. There's no registration.
On the one high and dry too?
On that one that's on high and dry outside of Moultrie Creek, yes.
No VIN number? VIN number's been taken off?
Again, the information I have from the FWC, Officer Thomas, she's given me all that we have. I have pictures of the boat. I went out and looked at it last week just so I can make sure we got the best estimate from, our disaster recovery crew. And that's the same vessel. She went ahead and gave me the oak. That's the one.
So that $17,000, that's just for the one boat, but it includes completely all the way to the it's gone?
Yes, it does.
They're going to destroy
Yes.
it and everything? Over there at SAMC, they're going to take it over there or just take it away? Do you know?
They're going to, speaking with the contractor, this is the first project they're doing with the city. They're going to operate out of the Butler boat ramp, and we coordinated with the county, with Parks and Recreation, and so they know we're going to operate out of their ramp, and we're going to see how they work. They're very well respected. When we followed up on their recommendations, yeah.
So they'll
And
destroy
they're
it at the boat ramp then, it sounds like. It sounds like they're going to destroy it at the boat ramp?
Not storing it. They're going to demolish it
destroy
and
it.
then haul it away themselves.
Okay, they're going to demolish it there at the boat ramp and then haul it off. Okay, I got you.
Is there no find money available for this too?
There's 30,000 every year. And that's usually a 75-25% split.
So if we,
Quick question. So Fish Island is currently leased by the state of Florida for the benefit of St. Augustine. So even though it's outside of the jurisdictional boundaries of the city is actually leasing it from the state of Florida. I would think both of those government entities would have some sort of skin in the game in terms of financially contributing to this. Would that not be the case since it's right up against Fish Island?
So last month, Director Piggott, he presented the commission with a form that I've been filling out as we pull these vessels. And so the idea of the form was to show how many vessels we're pulling out a year, how much is it costing the city, and then also to show each of the funding, because we love our grant funders here, between the port, between Find, and between the FWC, to show the breakout in between of how much, we're going to each of the wells to keep our waterways clean.
And to answer your question too, this is not part of Fish Island. It's in the intercoastal waterway, the ICW, but it's not in the channel. It's literally inches away from the channel.
it's below high tide line, stuck in the, so it's below the high tide line anyway, so it's on public property.
It's high and dry at low tide.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
You mean high tide?
No, well, it's fully grounded and it's in the muck at low tide. I mean, it's fully healed over on its side. And then when speaking with the contractor, now we didn't get close enough when I looked at it last week, but it's taken on water at high tide.
So Jim, what are you recommending?
I'm recommending, since we can save money, because as Corey said, this company is going to be here at the end of this month, I believe it is. This will save another mob and demob costs, since we're going to be on station, if you will, to get it pulled. Last year, I don't think we fully used our $25,000. So this year, just obviously take a big bite out of what's budgeted. In past years, before the Warrenfield Inn, we were spending like $60,000 or $70,000 almost a year. So I think this is a good spend just to get this out of the way.
That's most of the budget, because the budget's at
Commissioner,
25.
Carl, do you have something to say about this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention that it's possible, can't guarantee it, that if you approve this, I might be able to get you reimbursed by the Florida Inland Navigation District. As Mr. Pickett has said, what happened is, due to COVID-19, the state of Florida suffered a tremendous reduction in sales tax revenue. And in order to try to make up for that, they have swept a lot of accounts, including this derelict boat account, so the money's gone. And so on the other hand, in our last fine board meeting, we discussed the increasing problem of derelict boats in our entire district, especially in South Florida. And what we actually have done is we normally allocate $30,000 a year per county for derelict boat removal, and we're in the process of increasing that to $50,000. I think this is time sensitive for the city. And like I say, I'm willing to approach my folks to see if maybe we can get the Port District reimbursed. Can't guarantee it, but derelict boats is a major issue in our district and in the state. And we talk about it all the time in our board meetings. So I just wanted to add that. I can't guarantee it, but I'll be willing to try.
All right, thank you.
And we'll certainly follow up with Commissioner Blow on that.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and take care of that boat.
And if you mind, we can put a caveat that the city will follow up with Fine to see if we can get the port reimbursed whatever amount possible.
Okay, Commissioner Flowers, would you restate the motion?
I'd like to make a motion that the port go ahead and extend the monies to take care of that boat, to salvage the boat and destroy it, with Mr. Carl Blow following up with fine with the possibility of some reimbursement in the future.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
What's the total?
17.
$17,220.
17,220?
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Jim.
And then one more.
Mr. Piggott, real quick, based on what you said, if it's outside City of St. Augustine city limits, if the city attorney needs an interlocal agreement to give you all the power to do that, please have her contact me, or you can contact me.
We've never had one before. We've always just,
We're covered
Yeah.
either way. I'm
Right.
just saying, if y'all feel you need one, let me know.
our attorney's fine with that.
Cool.
Which brings up the next topic. If you remember back in May, June, I brought up that we're going to be applying for our, I think it's 13th or 14th fine grant for the dredging of Salt Run, which requires an interlocal agreement approved by you guys. The money has been budgeted, talking to Elise in the budget process when I brought it up. I was planning on bringing the interlocal agreement probably in the December meeting for you all to I don't know if you have to approve it again a second time, but sign it. Then I can put it on our January commission meeting for them to sign it, along with the interlocal agreement, because the application is due the end of February, early March.
I don't
Excuse
recall
me.
approving that I know we talked about it, but did we do an actual vote on that yet?
We did.
Yes.
That's the $50,000?
Yeah.
Well, it's 150 over a 3-year period.
Over 3 years,
That's-
50,000
Yes.
per year.
And this would be the second year.
This is, right.
So that, there's no vote, I just wanted to let you know that I'll be bringing the interlocal. I already shared it with the port attorney, and have him get back to me if there's any changes that he wants to, recommend that we make, so. And that's all I have, unless you have anything for me.
I have one thing.
Sure.
The cars passing out there flashing bright sunlight in here. When you go back, could you pull down the?
Sure. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. Just one statement I'd like to make to all government representatives that are here, and that is, if you can, and I emphasize if you can, in the future, even if it's 1 day or 2 days or 3 days before our meeting here, if you know you're going to ask for some money, send a message to Elise, then she'll get it to all of us so that we'll be able to look it over ahead of time. And, we appreciate what you do, but it would be nice to know a little bit ahead of time. So with that having been said, who's next?
Sergeant Josh Underwood, Sheriff's Office Marine Unit. Just to recap from last month to this month, for calls for service in the Port District is 48 for us, 21 safety inspections on vessels. We do have 2 new at-risk vessels that we're in investigation with now. One's a 58-foot shrimp boat that's sunk, and that's at Doug Crane. The other one's another shrimp boat. It's floating currently, but it is at risk, and both of those will be going to the state attorney's office. Just to give you guys a little background, before we give the boat information to the city for removal, it goes through the state attorney process. They'll proceed to prosecute them for derelict vessel in the state of Florida, and it's up to one of the judges in the circuit to decide if they're going to prosecute and ask for refunding for the removal. It goes into a state database with FWC. If they do remove it, or they do decide to pay money back for the removal, it'll all be in that database and documented. So all the derelicts in the state of Florida, if you were to go to FWC's derelict database, which is a public database on FWC's website, you could get that information from.
The other one you said, besides the 58-foot, what's the one at risk?
The at-risk one's another shrimp boat at Doug Crane. It's at the
There's 2
entrance.
shrimp boats over by the Doug Crane. Any idea how they just got left there?
No, they didn't get left there. People were living on them. The one sunk, which that one's in the court process now. The other one is floating. It's a shrimp boat that came from the seafood house that they got evicted from. So now he's staying down there in public waters.
And it's at risk?
And it's at risk because the engines don't function.
And it's not anchored properly or anything?
No, it's anchored properly.
Okay.
It's at risk because the engines are not operable.
Okay.
Beyond that, just so you know, the inlet markers are gone.
All of them?
All of them, because the dredge is here. I did talk to the commanding officer at the Aton station in Jacks Beach. They are aware of it, but due to the dredge and its work, we're kind of in limbo right now because of that.
So they couldn't come right now anyway because of the dredge?
Correct. Outside the district, just so you know, some situational awareness, December 5th, the Palm Valley Boat Regatta, and December 5th is the Juleton Creek Boat Regatta. That takes place in the river, and the Palm Valley one goes from a mile south of Palm Valley Bridge all the way to Marsh Landing.
Josh, do you know if they're going to do the regatta lights in St. Augustine this year?
I don't know for sure, but I heard that they were canceled because the
Cancel it?
parade was
Okay.
canceled. But everywhere else is still going. Downtown Jacksonville's still doing theirs, Ponte Vedra's doing theirs, and Juleton Creek's still doing theirs.
Got it.
And I know Flagler's still doing theirs, because I got that notification. And then just some more situational awareness. The night before Thanksgiving, we are doing flare training. That's all the maritime first responders. So we'll be at the pier, and we'll be offshore with Coast Guard shooting off expired flares to train the comm center workers when people call for flare reporting, what to ask for, what they're looking at, and that. And it teaches our guys too, if they're offshore in the boat, they know what to look for when the flares are up. Any questions for me?
I do. Going back to the derelict boats.
Yes, sir.
What can you do if you're patrolling, you see a boat anchored with no FL numbers or it's not registered? What can you do?
You can cite the owner off of the HIN number. So the HIN number is like a VIN number for a car.
Right.
We'll run it, whoever it comes back to. So the state of Florida says whoever that boat's registered to, whether that person owned it 10 years ago or they own it currently, they're still responsible. Because in a derelict situation, if I sell you a boat and then you never register it, but you leave it in my name, technically I'm still responsible whether I sold it to you or not.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's something that we could do. I mean, you can pretty much pick out any boat that's going to get sunk or destroyed with an oncoming storm just based on how long you see the boat sitting there, no FL numbers. I'm just wondering if something we could do preemptive.
Right,
Tow
see,
the boat somewhere instead of paying 17 grand to get it off the bottom. I was just curious.
And we still have to go through the state way of, if it meets the derelict process, it still has to go to the state attorney's office, and then the state attorney's office has to take it to a hearing, and they have to proceed with a derelict vessel trial. And usually that's a long extended period. If we deem a vessel derelict, we have to do it within 21 days. We have to put a placard on it. Then once we wait the 21 days, we send the owner of the boat a certified letter. They have to respond back to us whether they're going to fix it or they're not, or most of the time they don't respond back. And then we file a criminal charging affidavit, and then it goes through the state attorney in the court process.
You couldn't remove the boat if it doesn't have FL numbers and you contact the owner and 3 months later he hadn't registered the boat again. You still got to go
Correct.
through
For
that.
just having FL numbers, for not having them, that's just a citation for being stored on state waters with no registration. So derelict, we would have to prove that it's aground, beached, it doesn't have an operable engine, and so on.
All right, I'm just curious. Thank you.
Has there been any word on that shipwreck that showed up at Crescent Beach as to where it came from, or?
Not that I've heard of. The first I heard about it was on the news.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Josh.
Anything else for me? Yes, ma'am.
I noticed this past Sunday, the currents seemed to be just really wildly out of control. Have you had other reports of this? Is the dredging affecting the increased water velocity through Salt Run and the inlet? It just seemed really wild.
I worked Sunday,
Yeah.
and I feel like the current's always like that. Even in San Sebastian, that it really rips through there, in and out. But, I mean, I haven't really noticed a drastic change of the current. I guess I'm just used to operating in that.
Thank you.
Nothing else for me? Thank you.
Anybody else? Carl, come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a handout, so I'll go ahead and hand that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, sir.
Well, the main reason I came today, I just was to congratulate Commissioner Way on his reelection and to congratulate Commissioner West and welcome her to the board. It's always good for someone to be willing to do some public service. The other thing is what this handout I just gave you was just sort of an update on some of the things that FINE does. And I guess I forgot to say I'm Carl Blow with Florida Inland Navigation District. But what you're looking at is a grant application from the Matanzas Riverkeeper. And we provided grant funding to them last year as well. And what FINE does is we have this program, we've had it for years, where we will make available funding for waterway cleanups. And St. Johns County has been like one of the, almost the only county that hasn't applied for cleanup grant money over the years. It's been very sporadic. Everybody else, the other 11 counties are pretty, I mean, every year they come in with programs. So, and part of the reason for that is St. Johns County, because we have so much marsh area compared to, say, further south, Indian River Lagoon area, when they do their cleanups, they get a whole bunch of volunteers and they can, walk beaches and stuff. And it's always been an issue up here because we have mostly marsh and you can't really get a bunch of kids and volunteers and stick them out in the marsh to try to pick up trash. So that's why it's always been problematic. But anyway, when the Riverkeeper and kind of came along and they've developed the litter getter, and actually I think the litter getter was here before the Riverkeeper. But anyway, this program works pretty well here in St. Johns County because they have a boat and they actually, go out and pick up material because of the nature of our area. It's not like you can recruit a whole bunch of people to get out there and pick up litter, but anyway, they're having an impact, and I thought I'd just pass it on and make you aware of it. We did a grant awarded a grant last year and went very well, and they've obviously submitted for another one, and this was approved at our last board meeting. Other than that, as far as this is just not me, this is not a FINE comment, this is just me, citizen. Sergeant Underwood's right, there's no buoys in the inlet right now, and I guess you can say that's because of the dredge. That's always a convenient response. But it's a chronic problem. As you know, most of you know, I've been on this board before. I've been around here a few years, and it's a chronic problem to maintain nav aids on the inlet channel. And the Coast Guard will have various excuses, equipment problems, so forth. But I don't think they totally realize how important those nav aids are to this port. Because when they're not there, I think the city might be able to tell you that they may lose some business from the larger vessels that are on their way either north or south during the season. It's these larger yachts come in, and when they tie up at the city, they may buy a couple thousand gallons of fuel and other supplies. Plus, you now have, we've always had a working waterfront here in St. Augustine, but it's getting to be more of a significant working waterfront. And I'm just, here again, this is not FINE talking, this is just me, is I think there should be an effort to gently stress to the Coast Guard how important it is to maintain those nav aids, not only for safety, because this is a tricky inlet, especially if you're not familiar with it, and also for the economic impact it has on our marine industry here in St. Augustine. So I don't know how you guys, I mean, you are the local sponsor with the Corps for the Federal Inlet Channel. So you may want to give some thought of weighing in with the sector commander for this area, which is he's in Jacksonville, and just pointing out that, or requesting perhaps that they prioritize maintaining these nav aids for this inlet as much as they possibly can, because unfortunately I think they tend to concentrate on your deep water, deep draft channels and inlets like Jacksonville and Port Everglades and places like that. But it does have an impact when these nav aids are not in place, on impact on the city marina as well as the other marinas, Comanche, Conch House, and the facilities on the San Sebastian River. But if you're interested, the current sector commander is Captain Mark R. Vaughn, V-L-A-U-N, and I've got an email for him if you guys.
Mr. Blow, just regarding that, you know, I brought that up earlier this year when during last season when we had no markers at all, or I think 5 of them were gone. And if you recall, we talked about the same thing, and Deputy Underwood has made call. We've all gone through Jacksonville in every way, but also through that research, we're without a doubt the right political body to write a letter. My question is, have you contacted Jacksonville to say that we should go back through Jacksonville? Because the board did not want to write that letter before as a political body.
Captain Vaughn is, and it's V-L-A-U-N, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is the sector commander for Jacksonville. So
right.
the maintenance of those nav aids should fall under his command.
Right. I don't know if you're aware of this. We've been that route. I think about every year for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But if you're saying that's the fellow, but I would like to make a motion that we write just like Mr. Blow said, some kind of very kind letter trying to urge them that what we're asking the Coast Guard for is that they give us what they're saying they're going to give us, which are these markers. What are there, 5 of them?
Well, right now, when I went out there a couple of weeks ago, I deferred to Sergeant Underwood because he's been out there this weekend, I think. The only thing I saw was the sea buoy, and then 2 buoys almost, I forgot the numbers, but they're way in west, almost to the line of the beach.
Right.
So if you're familiar with that inlet, it's got a dog leg in it still.
Right. And it's true, they're gone more than
they're
actually here.
So if you are not aware of that dog leg, it could be problematic. So,
I would like to say to the board that the fuel sales, that when we don't get 60 to 80 foot yachts that obviously you can understand with insurance coming in an inlet where the markers are gone, those are $7,000 to $10,000 sales.
Right. Well, the main thing too is the number one main thing is to stress the safety issue. Yeah. And then the economic impact would be a secondary thing. But anyway, not to make trouble, I mean, this is not fine making this right, this is just me. And you guys are the local sponsor for the inlet. And you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I mean, I don't see any downside.
My recollection of our previous discussion of this, we were talking about trying to get channel markers, or aids to navigation rather, that were more permanent. I think the problem was that the ones that are out there float away or get off station all the time. And Mr. Zukowski told us that was a dead letter. They were never going to spend that money down here. But this is a slightly different issue, right? We're not asking for something, some new and improved system. We're just asking them to maintain the system that's in place.
What they've said, right? Yeah, what they've said in the past is the nav aids that they use cannot necessarily withstand a significant northeaster due to the amount of weight they use to anchor them. Mm-hmm. The deeper inlets have bigger buoys and bigger weights, and of course it takes the larger buoy tender to come in and set those. What I've heard in the past is the CO of the larger buoy tender isn't willing to come into this inlet due to the water depths. So what happens is the vessel they use for the buoys, the smaller buoys and the smaller weights, I think it's about 45 feet, something like that. And that vessel, I can remember going back, and help me out if I'm wrong, going back the last 2 years, there was a period of time when that vessel was totally out of service for more than a year. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't get any buoys at all, and the excuse was, well, the boat's broke. And so all I'm saying is, you know, I think it doesn't hurt to keep reminding them that this is an important inlet, even though it's a shallow draft inlet, but it is important to this St. Augustine area and its working waterfront. And
What if we ask for?
I'll let Sergeant Underwood weigh in on that.
I'll add real quick to that, and so locally, every other month, all the Marine staff in the county, fire, police, meet with the Coast Guard staff. Was it last month? Last month we met with Captain Vaughn. This issue was brought up, and Captain Vaughn told us that the way the Coast Guard does buoys is it's in a computer system. So the computer system takes all these inlets around the United States, and the computer deems what size buoy goes there, what size anchor, depth of water, and all that. So that's how they determine. We did speak with him about these buoys go missing every storm, and he was supposed to look into it and get back with us about what they can do to change that. I did bring up the suggestion of getting larger buoys to match Mayport, and the reason we don't have the larger buoys is what they told us was because we're not a commercial shipping port. Mm-hmm. That's why they have the larger buoys, and the buoys don't go missing in Mayport, he said, because they have jetties that run out both sides of the inlet, versus we have a short jetty.
We'll take the jetties.
And they don't protect them like they do the Mayport side. But we did bring this up to Coast Guard staff, and I don't have an answer to what they were coming up with, but we did bring it to the attention of the captain of the port.
Hey, Josh,
Yes, sir.
Is it only a government entity that can do that? You couldn't hire a private contract. It has to be the Coast Guard or the Corps.
Yeah, believe so.
And when you say they're gone, they're gone, or they're just misplaced?
No, they're just off station.
Okay.
There's a few of them on the beach.
Yeah, I saw one.
There's one on Bird Island.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that the board write a letter from the commission, excuse me.
No, I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask him something else.
Okay, go ahead.
On this budget for the cleanup, that's 5,000?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that what are you looking for 5,000?
No, I'm not looking, I just was telling you what, I just came, one, to congratulate you guys on getting elected.
Oh, okay.
And two, just to, show you some of the stuff Fine does. But no, Fine has provided that funding for the critter getter.
Okay.
That's just something we do, so.
Carlson,
I'm not,
this is just something you were.
I'll tell you what, if I ever come to ask for money, I'm gonna give you
were
plenty
just
in
before
advance. Excuse me?
This.
Yeah.
I mean, this was not a request for money.
No, absolutely not. I'm just, like I say, I just came to let you know what some of the stuff we do.
Thank you.
So in terms of getting in touch with the Coast Guard, which I agree is a good idea, do we think it makes more sense to write a letter on letterhead or do it more informally via email? I mean, Carl said he has the captain's email. Maybe it makes more sense to reach out.
If he says they talk to him all the time, then we should write a letter.
And we've talked to them at least the 20 years that I've been observing the port. Everybody calls about the markers. I'd also like to mention perhaps the city and the county might want to join us in writing that letter to beg for help, or even our representative.
Yeah.
Well, we have the legislative delegation meeting coming up for St. Johns County. Maybe this is something that we can speak to our elected officials about. I mean, it's definitely a safety thing, and certainly the revenue loss is a factor too, but we're creating unsafe waterways, which goes directly against our mission. So maybe a a strongly worded letter and representation at the legislative delegation, which I believe is in January.
Thank you. Commissioner Flowers, would you restate your motion?
My motion is that the board write a letter to the Coast Guard as a body politic begging for help with an inlet, with the inlet markers.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion?
Just who's going to write that letter, and what should it say?
I would think the lawyer would write it so it'd be fancy.
Any more discussion?
Should we ask the city you want to wait until the delegation and see if we can't get them to?
Oh, no, not necessarily.
Okay.
I think we should fire with everything we've got. I think both ideas are good. The idea of having the city and the county potentially sign on is a good one too, though, which raises the question of how we go about asking about that. Jim, how would we?
I can bring it up, we can write a letter, that's not a problem.
Okay, great. So maybe we need to get in touch with somebody at the county as well, or maybe we just do it with the city. Try not to make this too complicated.
Maybe we get 2 letters down in one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, anybody else? Okay.
Bill Miller, St. John's Flagler Coastal Crew, FWC. Just in regards to what Josh was saying, with the inlet buoys, I can speak on behalf of all the first responders. We go to multiple search and rescues where people misjudge the inlet, end up on the shoal. It happens, what do you think? Every year, multiple times, every winter. We just did one a week ago or so.
Maybe we could include those incidents in our letter, because those can be very dangerous, and sometimes aren't they?
Right, yeah.
Even for you guys trying to
But
get
yeah,
out.
people end up on the shoal,
Right.
6 to 10 foot swells, and not fun. So, just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Last call for government representatives. Okay. Carl.
The more documentation you can provide in detail, the better. So if FWC can print out a list of those instances, and that really helps, stress the safety issue and the safety concern, where you can say, hey, here are the dates of these incidences. Because, anyway, that's all I got to say.
Great, thank you. Secretary Treasurer's report.
This is the first month of the new fiscal year. For city police law enforcement overtime, of the $8,000 we committed for fiscal year 2021, we've spent $150. For the sheriff's department overtime, of the $25,929 has been spent to date. Basically, that's all we've got because it's only been the first month. In the State Board of Administration, Fund A, we have $23,137. In the operating account, we have $88,604. And in the money market account, we have $2,284,318. We budgeted for this fiscal year $583,400 in tax and revenue. We've received $9,926 to date as of now. So our balance of our expected tax income is $573,474. Our balance from last year, which has not come in yet, was $43,75. I'm not surprised that hasn't been paid yet, or we might never see that.
Will it be paid, do you think?
Huh?
Will it eventually be paid?
It could be, yeah. It
For the
probably will come
property
in-
taxes that haven't been collected and paid to us yet?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
We used to have 30,000 in the maps. Did we move that somewhere?
We didn't put it in because we didn't budget for it this year.
Oh, it's because this is the first day of the, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
we can always add it.
I was just wondering.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Anytime you want to add something to the budget, you can. We just have to make a resolution that we're adding this to the budget. That's all. Very simple.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. received a copy of the minutes. There's some questions I have. I'll lead off with the number 7, government representative comments. Mr. Pickett gave a summary of the derelict vessels that had been removed in 2019, 2019, 2019, and 220. I think that first one should be 2018.
Yes.
Okay. There's one other thing. Page 5 of 6. Just the spelling of the word Vilano, V-I-L-A-N-O. It doesn't have 2 L's. Are there any other corrections or additions to the minutes?
Just a question, who's doing our minutes now? Sorry?
Yes.
Mr. Meek?
Okay, you're actually doing our minutes as well, or your office does our minutes for us, or?
I am personally doing them.
Okay, you're the minute person.
And the audio is going on now almost immediately. Like
Okay.
tomorrow I'll meet with the web hosts and we're going to get today's meeting on there.
Is that on our website?
Yep, it's on the website and YouTube. So
StAugustineport.com. Any other additions or corrections to the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay, now we're down to the engineering report. Is there an engineering report? Okay.
One thing I never got was a final contract without the arbitration in it. Do we have a signed contract yet for Taylor?
I sent everybody a copy.
It must have been a while, I never got it without, I don't have a completed contract that's been signed. And I never got the last one that removed the arbitration.
Yeah, yes, I'll get you a copy. I have it.
Okay, do we have a signed contract yet?
Yeah, was it signed at the last meeting?
I got the
Yes.
insurance, I don't have a copy of the contract that's signed. Does anybody have
Right,
that?
that was at the last meeting. I will forward it to you. I
Okay.
can forward that tomorrow morning.
Okay, so we do have a signed contract that does not include arbitration in there?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Right. Okay, next item is the vote on chairman and vice chairman. I think it'd be appropriate if our attorney would conduct this election.
Be happy to. The best place to start, obviously, is with chairperson, and are there any nominations, either self or others?
I'll make a nomination.
I'd like to make a nomination also.
I'll nominate Tom Rivers as our senior member, and,
And I'd like,
fine.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'd like
ma'am.
to nominate Jane West as chairman.
Are there any other nominations? It's up to the board's preference, just a secret vote. Everyone write their preference down, or everyone can raise hands.
I'm capable of raising my hand.
Well, I'd like to speak in my behalf.
Certainly.
I came on unexpectedly whenever Barry Benjamin resigned, and it's sort of new to me, but I would like to continue, and I would appreciate your vote. I've just got to know Jane West, met her for the first time today, and I'm sure she's extremely capable, but I would like to continue serving as your chairman, if you so desire.
Thank you. And I would like to decline the nomination at this point. I just got elected to the board, and I'd like to get to know the ropes a little bit before taking a leadership role. But thank you.
That also renders the question of how to vote relatively moot.
Well, no, they
All
have
in,
to vote.
well, no, but the methodology.
Other nominations?
I'm running this, thank you.
Ask a question. Any other nominations?
All those, can I get a motion?
Can I make another nomination?
Public comment, please.
I'd like to know if since
No.
Ms. West declined, could I make another nomination?
Wish?
I'd like to nominate Matt Brown.
Commissioner Brown, do you
He's
have
been
any
with us
comments?
a couple years now.
I accept the nomination, sure. No other comment beyond that.
Okay.
With two nominees back before, does anyone else have any other nominations? With two nominees, I would propose, in the absence of an objection by any commissioner, just take a roll call vote, and the commissioner may name the person they select as chairperson. Hearing no objection, starting closest to me, Commissioner Way,
Yes, I vote for Commissioner Rivers.
Commissioner Rivers. Commissioner Rivers, who is your vote?
Commissioner Rivers.
Commissioner Flowers.
Commissioner Brown?
Commissioner Brown
Commissioner Brown.
and Commissioner West.
Commissioner Brown.
They need a vice chair.
Yes. So by a 3-2 vote, Commissioner Brown is chairperson.
Congratulations.
And are there any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Jane West. Sorry.
I'd like to nominate Chris Way.
Are there any other nominations? Do either commissioners wish to speak as far as accepting or rejecting the nomination or on their own behalf?
I really appreciate it, Commissioner Flowers, but I would like to get to learn the ropes of the commission before I take a leadership role. So I am going to decline the nomination. Thanks again.
I'd like to nominate myself.
Are there any other nominations by any commissioner? Hearing none, proceeding the same manner as with chair, by roll call vote, Commissioner Way, who do you vote for?
I'll vote for me.
Commissioner Rivers, your vote?
Commissioner Way.
Commissioner Flowers?
Myself.
Commissioner Brown?
Commissioner Way.
And Commissioner West?
Commissioner Way.
By a 5-1 vote, Commissioner Way is vice chair. Congratulations to both.
Thank you.
I would yield the floor back with the elections being concluded.
Commissioner Brown, do you wish to take your seat?
Oh, sure, thank you.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration, excuse me, name tag switch. All right, next item on the agenda of new business, consideration of resolution 20-05. Mr. Meek?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner, Resolution 2005, which has been circulated to all commissioners, is a resolution essentially reaffirming the commission's positions regarding racism, cooperation with law enforcement, and the other whereas clauses. I know the commissioners have all had an opportunity to review the resolution. I would be happy to entertain any questions about the resolution prior to officially reading it or proceeding in whatever other manner the chair desires.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a contract with us yet?
Written, I do not have a signed.
We have not decided on your amount that you're making or have signed a contract, and yet you've written a resolution? Is that normal?
Yes,
It is. That you work for us already without a contract? Because we've had a lot of problems with people working for us without contracts.
My answer to your question was I do not yet have a written contract by verbal approval. I was.
Have we decided how much we're going to pay you yet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but we just don't have you don't have a contract with us yet.
The written contract reaffirming the verbal vote already taken is on the agenda item is,
It's right there under old business, number 12.
yes, ma'am.
Right, but I'm just saying, you've already started working for us and writing resolutions without a contract. I just find it odd. So if something goes wrong before the contract, and I'm sorry to keep beating that into the ground, but it really is important. If somebody malpracticed this or anything like that, and there's no written contract,
Then a court will find a non-written contract from the various agreements that we've already entered
you think that
into.
that's so is that a
That's-
surety for the taxpayers?
That's day one of contracts,
Okay,
Sandy.
I would like to make a statement that we've had constituents come to us and tell us that they can't work like that. Contractors tell us they cannot even step on the property until the insurance has been given, verified, all the contracts are signed, but it's okay for us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
May I make a procedural point of order and make a motion to move old business to before new business on this agenda and all future agendas moving forward?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I think I'm in agreement with that.
I'm in agreement.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? Great.
Okay, so old business will be first.
New business going forward.
In accord with that vote, shifting gears, in the agenda packet, or material circulated, was the draft written contract reaffirming and adopting what has already been verbally adopted by the commission, and I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding that or discuss it in any way, shape, or form. Tried to keep it relatively short and simple to not get bogged down in details, but I'm happy to review any matter of it.
Any discussion on the contract?
Is that the one from September?
I'm sorry?
The one from September?
No. Yeah.
We have a motion to approve the contract as written.
Make a motion.
Second?
I don't see where what did we agree on? You said we voted on the rate, and we did that last meeting? That did not happen last meeting, that we voted on the rate.
Yeah, we accepted the rate as it had been entertained in his initial proposal and then his secondary
Okay,
presentation
I guess
as well.
I'm just not getting some of it, I'm sorry. I'm not getting all of this, I'm sorry, in my email, I'd check it thoroughly. Can you tell me what the rate was, just offhand?
It's on the second paragraph of the first page for agreement of District General Counsel Services.
Right, I did not get that in my email. So what is the rate?
The attorney shall be compensated by the district with a base fee, hereinafter referred to as a base fee, of $7,500 per year to be paid at the rate of $625 per month for services. There's no mileage to be incurred, and it's, if there's additional work, it's at an hourly rate of $200 an hour, which,
thank you.
in my experience, I find
It's a very good rate.
very reasonable.
Yes.
So I believe we have a motion pending on the floor. I'll second.
Great. Any discussion? Any additional discussion after the motion? Hearing none? No. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None? Great. Motion passes. Back to new business. Point C, consideration of resolution 20-05.
And I believe we were in the midst of answering any questions regarding that resolution before I then read the resolution for entertaining a motion. Were there any other questions by any commissioners regarding the resolution 20-05?
Yes, it seems like the resolution is a condemnation of me in regards to the police incident report. I'm not finished, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you at the last meeting when Mr. Brown brought that up and questioned me about that?
I was at the last meeting,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
Just in case you didn't hear it, I told Mr. Brown then that the report had been falsified by an Officer Brian, that not only did I not use any racial slur that day, I was not belligerent, he did not threaten to tase me, I did not use my truck to block anyone in, and again, I did not use a single racial slur. I will be, unfortunately, sending a legal response to the city by the end of this week. When this first occurred, I went directly to Chief Fox. He said he was going to take care of this because now what we have is a defamation with malice, with a political objective by a bad police officer. Before he got a chance to take care of anything, somebody got it in the newspaper. Mr. Rivers? Oh, excuse me. Aren't you a long-time huge advertiser for the St. Augustine Record? Anyway, so what y'all done is put me in position now where we've got a false police report. You're choosing to take action on a falsity, and I will say here, as I've told the the chief, I have surveillance video of this event and multiple eyewitnesses in my neighborhood to tell you that it did not happen. So you are passing a resolution or trying to condemn me over something I did not do, and you're actually putting the city in far bigger danger. You don't leave me much choice but to respond legally when you've done something like this. So how you would write or write, but who asked you to write the resolution, I would like to know.
If, I'm just waiting for you to be sure you're finished so I don't cut you off.
Yes, I'm finished. I'd just
All
like
right.
to know who asked you to write the resolution since we had never had a chance to talk about it.
As to resolutions for situations such as this, I believed it was in the port's best interest to have an affirmative statement regarding the allegations that had been made. Certainly, if any of the commissioners as body politic do not wish this resolution to have been made, then in essence, I'm happy as the attorney to eat the cost.
But did a commissioner call you and ask you?
Commissioner Flowers, as I allowed you. I would be happy to eat the cost, and the port will not be billed for any time preparing that resolution. As to your second concern, Commissioner Flowers, I was exceptionally careful in drafting this resolution. At no point anywhere within this resolution does it say you did any of the things you were accused of doing. What it says is that allegations were made. This resolution,
It looks like a condemnation, sir, and you know it.
position on whether something did or did not happen. The only affirmative statements in this resolution are the statements of law, as far as what the Constitution says, the Commissioner's oath, the various legal authorities, and when I did refer to law, I referred to them in quotes. It's simply a restatement of what the law says. The only affirmative action this resolution would do on behalf of the port is whether the allegations were made, were true, weren't true. This is simply a resolution that the port says, the port reaffirms its commitment to support, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the state of Florida. The port condemns and opposes racism in all forms, including but not limited to any action, statement, or behavior that appears to interfere or attempt to interfere with any person's right to pursue happiness because of that person's race, and the port condemns and opposes the interference or harassment by any person of a public official or employee attempting to appropriately and validly carry out their official duties. That is the only resolution language in the resolution. It is not in any way, shape, or form directed, it's not worded for any individual person or any individual situation.
Well, letter D here says September the 4th.
Whether it happened or did not happen, it's clearly been in the press. The public has clearly seen the allegations that are made. And as the attorney, I believe I owed a duty to the port to do all reasonable things to protect the port's public image and the public's opinion of the port. All this resolution does is say the port stands by those principles. It does not, in any way, shape, or form, this resolution does not make any findings of fact. In fact, on page 2, it specifically states the St. Augustine Port Waterway and Beach Commission does not have the power to adjudicate, investigate, or otherwise determine the veracity of the allegations made. This resolution doesn't pick sides. This resolution is not a truth meter. This resolution is an opportunity for the port to say, these are the things we stand for.
Will you answer
Through
my
the chair,
question?
may I?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Listen, I just got elected to this position, and I am not here to waste my time on things that have already transpired in the past. I believe this is what is known in layman's terms as a CYA. And in terms of covering liability for this commission, I think it's a prudent measure. But can we please move on, because we've got important work to do. My time is valuable. I understand the personal concerns that you may have, Commissioner Flowers, but I do think that they are personal in nature, and you can explore those opportunities if you want to with the city's police chief or even through the civil court system. But as far as this board is concerned, we've got work to do. These resolutions are benign. They're just simply restating what we're already all committed to. I think moving forward, if we could just come together a little bit, unlike our national politics, and get some work done instead of toiling in the past. I make a motion to approve of these resolutions.
Can I finish my comment? I wasn't finished asking questions. I still had the question out that he did not answer when I said, who called you and asked you, and sorry, they brought it into this venue, not me, Ms. West.
He did already answer that. He said nobody did.
No, I didn't, I'm saying, did a commissioner speak with you about writing the resolution, sir?
That was the first thing I answered was
I
that
heard
this
you,
was
you
a
gave me a
resolution.
lot of words, but I didn't hear you say no, no one called me and asked me to write it. That's all I'm asking you.
You asked me what was the impetus for drafting this motion?
No,
I
excuse me,
said-
I'm just, I didn't hear the
Commissioner
first
Flowers,
part.
if you
I'm just saying, it's a yes or no?
Answer the question, you have to let me answer the
Okay,
question.
again, the question is, did a commissioner call you to discuss writing this resolution?
I called various commissioners to let them know that I was going to be drafting a resolution to protect the port.
Why did you
No
not,
one
why didn't you call
requested
me?
that me.
I mean, if this is not about this action, why didn't you call me?
Again, no one requested that I draft this resolution. I drafted this
Okay.
resolution.
And you called Mr. Way, Mr. Rivers?
Didn't call me.
You just called Mr. Rivers?
No, I called Commissioner Brown because Commissioner Brown was quoted in the paper
Okay.
as being interviewed by
So
the.
you called Commissioner Brown?
If I could, again,
And then you-
Commissioner
okay.
Flowers.
I just needed to get it straight.
Nobody's going to hear both of us
Because you
talking at
brought
the
it
same
into the
time.
public, okay, very good. And my time is important too, Ms. West, very important to me. And so is the truth. By the way, I have one more statement about this. Last time a commissioner said anything from this board and questioned Barry Benjamin's service, our lawyer actually represented him for free twice. Instead of coming at him, expecting some kind of explanation, they went right away and protected them, and yet this is what I get. Again, I want to make one final statement, Ms. West and the rest of the board. This is a false report against me over some things I've said politically. I must have hit a nerve when we're talking about $3 million contracts that aren't bid out.
So,
And I know exactly what's going on. So I don't think it's at all unwise for me to bring this up. If you're going to bring, I wasn't going to say a word about it today until you wrote a resolution before we even talked about this. It's making it worse for the city. Please stop.
So we have a motion on the floor to accept. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Public comment, please.
Public comment is after this, Ed.
So, under 286-114, we have a right.
You have a right before to anything on the agenda, and we also give you an opportunity afterwards. You don't
I can't talk intelligently before the discussion is had. I want to speak now under 286.1114.
No, you've got plenty of time before and after. That's all that's owed to you, Ed.
Because this discussion.
Go ahead, Chris.
okay, the only thing I wanted to mention was in that newspaper article about the event that stated that there were people on the board that somehow conspired to set this up. Is that your contention?
That's
I
what
have
she's
no
reiterating
idea. I
now,
haven't
too.
read the abomination.
That there's powerful, shady forces at work
Yeah,
who are trying to
you're
undermine
accusing
her.
members of this commission.
When somebody
I'm
spends
speaking now.
$10,000 behind our back on a $750 pylon,
Right.
yeah, that's an accusation. I'm
Okay,
sorry if
so-
nobody else thinks that's too much but me.
So what you're saying is a meter maid, her supervisor, and then the policeman conspired with commissioners.
Actually, I'm not saying anything, because I've
Well,
been
you
told
did
not to
say.
speak about it, except to make the response to him. So as far as what's happened, I'm
The
simply
paper
telling
was
you it's
wrong
false.
as well. Look, what happened with you over there, it's not my
No,
concern.
sir, the paper, I think, reported what they thought was right on the police report, but that's not up to them.
Okay, so what you're saying is a conspiracy between
No, I'm
Leader
not gonna say
Maid,
another thing.
the supervisor, and the policeman that showed up on the spot, and the three of them conspired with somebody or members on this commission. That's
That
what
what
your
happened?
statement.
You tell me, is that what happened?
I don't know, that's what you
I
said.
don't know, it came out of nowhere. I don't know.
Through the chair, may I, this is off topic. We have
It
two
is.
pending resolutions. We have a motion on the floor.
I agree. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I'll second.
All right.
All right, all in favor of adopting the resolution as written?
I think it should be a voice vote, Mr. Chairman. I mean,
Roll call?
Roll call.
Vote, yeah.
yeah, roll call vote.
That's fine. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Way,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Flowers,
No.
Commissioner Rivers,
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Yes.
Great, passes 4-1. Next agenda item, consideration of options available to the commission. I would move that we table this until the next meeting. If Sandy is actually pursuing legal action, then this might not be right for discussion yet.
I'm definitely pursuing legal action because they gave me no choice to back out of it once you did the explosion.
Are there any objections to that?
None.
Mr. Chair, if I
Sure.
could, there are two general thoughts on further actions. I can certainly understand why the one would want to be tabled. One thing I was going to suggest that the commission consider is, in light of one of the comments I think was made perhaps by an audience member about lowering the heat, perhaps it was Commissioner West. I know there's been dispute in the past about the blanket bond adequately covering. I think especially in light of the fact that we now apparently are possibly getting into individual commissioners having disputes among individual commissioners, valid or otherwise, just that it's potential, that one recommendation I would have for the commission is to entertain having individual bonds for each commission member that the port would reimburse the commission members for, just so that's one less point of contention going forward.
Sandy?
Can I get my $340 that was denied to me for getting my bond
Yeah.
for 2 years? Do I get interest on that?
No?
$340 you made me
I
pay
will
to
get-
serve here.
I did this, just bring me the receipt.
I've already submitted the receipt to the lawyer 2 years ago along with my bond.
What
He's-
lawyer?
Port's attorney, Mr. Bedsole. I did exactly what the charter said, and you did
Have a
not.
copy of your bond?
I have the original bond. He has a copy. I've got the original.
Okay, do you have a copy of the original receipt?
I'm sure I've got the receipt.
Okay,
But I
well,
know
then
that
just
he
bring
does.
me-
I brought it to his office in person, and you guys took a vote and denied me of my money.
Just get me the receipt and I will write you a check.
I will see it. What if I can't find that receipt? It's been 2 years since I submitted
Well,
it
is
to
on,
him.
how did you pay for it? What, through
On
what
my debit
company?
card,
No. Who did you pay it to?
to the surety company, to the insurance company.
Which insurance company?
I don't, again, it's been 2 years, Elise. I'd have to pull it out again. But can I ask a question while we're on that? What is our insurance policy for the port, the commercial policy? Because the one in my binder said $10,000.
There's 3 different insurance policies. One is for, like, if something happens to buoy markers or something, they cover certain real estate, which we really don't have. The other insurance is for, there's a criminal and it's a blanket bond of $5,000, and it's every 3 years for all the commissioners. They don't ask for names, they just have a blanket bond. And then there's another one that we pay, I think it's like a surety bond. So I can pull all those out and send you copies of the insurance.
Well, it just seems
Which I
like
think I did.
10,000, like I said, the one thing I have is a commercial, the coverall policy was $10,000, and that's one violation of the sunshine law. It just seems like we could have a little bit more than that.
We do. There's 3 different policies. There's another one that's much more than that. I will pull them out.
One last question and related to the bond that I purchased per the charter instructions. Are we going to not follow, so we're going to, you've agreed that we need to purchase those bonds and I'll get my money back?
What I was suggesting to the commission was it would, in the end, be cheaper to simply get individual bonds reimbursed by the board than it will be to do the investigation. I've spoken with former Port Counsel. I understand his opinion on whether a blanket bond would be appropriate or not, and what he says makes perfect sense as far as the liberal construction. My suggestion of this point was, again, under the context of valid or not, there is a diminished public perception of the commission. This is one point of contention that in my limited time here, I have seen among the commissioners. It will be a very cheap fix to at least not have commissioners fighting,
I
discussing, or arguing
understand.
about
The
this
only
going
problem is
forward.
though, it says if you don't get your bond in 60 days, you must vacate your seat. And I
Commissioner
brought this
Thomas, I
up at the
can't build
very
you a
last
house.
election, so you're admitting, are you telling us we should?
That's all.
I'm sorry, you interrupted me, I was talking.
That is moot. That is beyond moot. At this point, it's 2 years moot. We don't need to go over it again. Mr. Meek, thank you for that.
It's not moot, sir, if the charter says it, that you must do something or vacate your seat.
It absolutely
I mean,
is.
I don't
We
know
need to
how
get
that
on
could be
to new business E, expansion of port boundaries. Commissioner West.
Thank you. I was trying to pull up a map of our existing port boundaries. This is one of the issues that I ran on, and I think there's actually consensus based on some of the public forums that the Matanzas Riverkeeper hosted, Commissioner Way, where we have quite a bit of water users here in St. Johns County that are not included within the jurisdictional boundaries of the commission, and they should be, including a good chunk of the shores, St. Augustine South. But even beyond that, I think we should really seek to expand even further than that, because we have a lot of people that don't necessarily live proximate to any of our waterways, but they boat, they bring their boats in on their trailers, and it's causing a lot of congestion on our boat ramps. It's costing a lot of money. We need to be able to recoup the expenses involved with running this commission efficiently. We just took a $17,000 hit today for a derelict boat. So I'm not sure what the proper procedure is to go about under the Florida Constitution or our governing documents to examine expanding the jurisdictional boundaries. I'm pretty sure it isn't through just a vote of this commission, but I would like to go ahead and get that process started. And I don't know if our attorney has had an opportunity to review what procedural steps we would take next, but I'd like to get the ball rolling as soon as possible.
Tom, I think you can speak to that, right? Because you've tried to do this before.
I was charged a few years ago with that duty, and I've spoken with our legislature. I've appeared twice before our local legislative delegation. I traveled at one time to Sarasota to meet with the Florida Association of Special Districts. We belong to that group. Concerning ways in which we could approach the legislature, because it has to be approved by the legislature. Our birth was caused by the legislature at 1937. And so I've taken every argument that you just said and talked to all these people, including Cindy Stevenson, Paul Renner, and others on the state level to try to get this rolling. When I talked to the state, Florida Association of Special Districts, their advice was to lay off a few years because there was a movement in the legislature to do away with all special districts. So I've done that. We've kind of
When
held
was
back.
that? What year was that?
That was 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's been another election, so maybe the issue is ripe again.
So we held off for a while, and I agree with you. It's something that we should look into, and I'm certainly willing to continue working on that with you.
Okay. And maybe that's something that we can partner with to examine.
Sure.
I'm in Tallahassee for the entire legislative session, so I'm happy to push that through.
Thank you.
Thank you for that input.
I think everybody, at the time we brought this up, all of the commissioners were in agreement. This is something we wanted. So it's not a matter of whether we want it or not. It's a matter of how we can get it done.
Okay, and does that remain the case, that all the commissioners are supportive of
I certainly
expansion?
am.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, I'll work on it.
Any other discussion on expanding port boundaries? No. Next item on the agenda is requesting signage for Matanzas Inlet. Jane West.
Yeah, so apparently, years ago, one of the former commissioners that sat on this board, Gleason, maybe, I don't recall.
Gleason,
Thank you.
yes.
Requested that signage be placed in the Matanzas Inlet to basically advise that the Army Corps deemed it an unnavigable waterway. And the purpose for putting that signage up was basically to inform folks just on a general education basis, because there are routinely calls out for dredging of the inlet, and that would be contradictory to the Army Corps' position of dredging a navigable waterway. So it is currently deemed an unnavigable waterway. I'd like to get those signs back up so we don't face another flurry of requests to go ahead and dredge that inlet.
Jan, do you know where those signs were?
I can make some phone calls and find out. I don't know exactly where they were
Are
placed.
they
no.
going to stay there as long as the inlet markers do, or? I mean, are you talking from the ocean side or from the river side going to the ocean?
It's a good question. Let me find out. It basically was kind of a boat at your own risk. This is deemed an unnavigable waterway sort of sign.
Seems to me like it should be on both sides of the bridge.
Yeah, I would think so.
And Summer Haven River too.
So I can talk to people who have a little bit more institutional knowledge about where exactly those signs were located before I spent the time on that.
I just don't ever remember there being any kind of a buoy or marker on the ocean side of it that I can recall.
It
But
was 20 years ago.
The bridge is so low.
You could hang it on the bridge. I think that's a
Coming
great
in from
idea.
the
You should
ocean.
definitely pursue that if you're able to. Any other discussion on that? No. Old business has already been. Oh, sorry, Elise.
I do have one thing, because it has to be public. I will need to get new signature cards for the bank. So I will need you and you to re-sign cards, and I will get that for you as long as you all agree.
sure.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I have to say your name, sorry. Matt Brown and Chris Way.
Good. Old business is concluded, so public comment.
Congratulations, Chairman Brown. Thank you for electing a reformed chairman. Thank you for not electing Mr. Rivers, who had, like his predecessors, arrogated powers that were not inherent in the chairman and don't exist in this district. Now, your attorney just admitted polling, and I would like to ask you to make a referral and a question to the State Attorney General. Send them the transcript of what he said. What he said was that he polled commissioners one at a time about something that he was going to do. And Florida precedents dating back clear to 1989 say that a government attorney can't contact individual members of the board and make a decision and substitute for an open public meeting. Justice Frankfurter wrote that the history of freedom in this country is largely the history of procedural due process. You four members, just violated Ms. Flowers' constitutional rights, her civil rights, her rights under the environmental whistleblower laws, her rights as a woman, and you condemned racism but not sexism. And I think you guys on this commission, particularly Mr. Rivers and Mr. Barry Mark Benjamin, were guilty of sexism and misogyny. They gavelled Ms. Flowers. They treated her ruthlessly. Listen to the tapes, Ms. West. That was a horrible case of sex discrimination, and you just voted for it. It's wrong. So I'm hoping that Commissioner Flowers will file administrative complaints with the State of Florida Human Relations Commission and with the United States Department of Labor under the Clean Water Act, because y'all retaliated for her protected activity. And anyone with half an ounce of brains who had never been to one of these meetings would have read that article in the St. Augustine Record. And I asked a couple who were retired colonels, and they both agreed. It's obvious on the face of that article that this was a case of retaliation for First Amendment protected activity. And right there, smack dab in the middle of the article, was something that the St. Augustine Record never addressed, and you gentlemen on this board never addressed. And that was the paragraph right smack dab in the middle about Barry Mark Benjamin. Remember that guy? On this board for 20 years, moved out of the district, didn't live in the district, from probably 2011 on. And I got from the prior attorney the file where the prior attorney represented Barry Mark Benjamin in his individual capacity and made materially false and misleading statements to a Florida State Commission. Now, that's wrong. And when somebody serves for years and you know where they live and you know it's not in St. Johns County, it's not even within the narrow confines of the current district, and you beat up on Commissioner Flowers for raising it, you ignored my 120 paragraph complaint that I filed with Ms. Oakes. And what do we have here? What we have here in St. Johns County is a corrupt political machine. A corrupt one-party political machine until about 10 days ago. And you just voted for it. You just voted to retaliate against a whistleblower. Like in paraphrasing the old AT&T commercial, reach out and crush someone. That's what y'all just did. So I hope somebody who voted for that dumb old motion or made the motion will, at a future meeting, move to reconsider and retract it, because it was wrong. Abraham Lincoln said we must disenthrall ourselves. He also compared hearsay to the thin soup that was made from the shadow of a dead pigeon that starved to death. You made a decision based upon unreliable, uncross-examined hearsay. None of the declarants came in this room, and you tried her and you found her guilty of what? First Amendment protected activity? Being the first woman on a male-dominated board? Disagreeing with waste, fraud, and abuse? Well, you've given her a prima facie case under First Amendment, under sex discrimination, and under federal whistleblower protection. So congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Your first meeting, you really screwed up. What we need to be doing, like Ms. West said earlier, we need to be talking about the path forward, about the 7-generation test, about the St. Augustine National Historical Park and National Seashore, about actually having a regulatory program, because this district was established in 1937, and it's pretty much been a whorehouse for the Army Corps of Engineers ever since, basically a wash through which money is sent. You have regulatory authorities. You have regulatory authorities to do things like she's been wanting to do, like do something about poop in the Matanzas. Let's do it. And let's support the St. Augustine National Historical Park and National Seashore. Let's make this district stand for something besides retaliation and sexism and misogyny and cover-ups and whistleblower retaliation. You owe her an apology, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Mr. Blow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of comments, Commissioner West. My recollection was Commissioner Gleason was suggested putting the signage on the bridge and on the west side so that people would see it and not attempt to go out the inlet. Be honest with you, I can't remember if it ever actually got installed because what you got to do is work with FDOT. And you probably know they can be a little frustrating to work with sometimes. But that's what I know about the signage.
According to Pat Hamilton, they were up for years.
Were they? Okay. Well, they probably, corroded away or something. But it seems to me that they put them on the bridge. Now, if they made it up on the bridge, then it might be easier to get them reinstalled with DOT. But it's the DOT bridge. You might want to check with Parks and Recreation because they were looking at doing some signage down there, and maybe Sergeant Underwood can weigh in. Weren't they going to do some signage about no wake and stuff down there? Because I got a call from them about it.
So the wake zone signage that's at Matanzas is down. There's only the 2 of the 4 signs that are supposed to be up. It's supposed to be signed under state law. 2 on one side and 2 on the other side of the zone. Well, there's 2 missing on the one's half over and one's completely gone on the west side of the zone. So Parks and Rec was getting with the National Park Service and they were going to re-sign that whole area. So that might be a plus. And I can give you a contact for the National Park down there, who the representative on that half is.
Who is that?
It's going to be Chief Ranger Anthony Vela.
Anthony, what?
Vela, it's V-E-L-A.
Thank you.
And then you said County Parks and Rec is the other entity that's involved?
Correct,
Okay.
and that was County Parks and Rec, that was Nathan Otter. He's the supervisor on that side.
And it may be the
Teddy's
sign,
not here today, right? Okay, no.
it may be that you know, based on where they're putting these signs, it might be easier to deal with that than to try to deal with DOT on the bridge. The other comment I had is I agree with you. It's always bugged me that the district boundaries didn't include the entire county. My recollection was that the mosquito control district was the same situation years ago, and in order to get that district, taxing district, expanded to the entire county, that they basically had to do put the issue on the ballot, because what you're doing, the folks up in Ponte Vedra and out west, and you're asking them to tax themselves. And my recollection was that the legislators, they don't want to put that tax on people unless they have some result from an election or referendum saying that those people want to be included in the district. And my recollection with the mosquito control deal was people were getting sick from mosquitoes, so there was a motivation on their part to be included in the mosquito control district. So the last I heard was, I think, Tom, did they give you an estimate on what it would cost to put that on a ballot, a referendum? Because that might be the other thing that you check with the supervisor elections to see what, because they're going to charge probably this board to put that issue on a ballot. If they wouldn't, okay, well, that'd be great. But anyway, that's what I've run into with the legislators, is they say, well, hey, we don't want to, put a new tax on somebody unless we have some evidence that they want that new tax. And then, but anyway, thank you for the time. I'll probably pass that on.
Hey, Carl, excuse me. And this may be something that the attorney may have to look into, but I'm all over the state on business all the time, and I've seen a lot of boat ramps and stuff in Tampa where they have a fee to launch a boat, and I was curious whether or not the port had the authorization to be able to charge a fee at boat ramps. Is any?
This was something the county was discussing recently, right?
Talking about.
And they rejected it.
In Tampa, for example, they have a voluntary, you pull up, you take the envelope, you put your money in and you put it in, and then you take the other sticker and put it in your window. And on really busy weekends, they'll have somebody there that's, controlling the boats coming in and out.
I know in Palm Beach County, and I think Broward, and probably Miami-Dade, you actually buy a sticker, kind of like the same situation you have to drive on the beach. The only thing about that, it really would be whoever owns the boat ramp. Like, most of the boat ramps are owned by the county, so they would have, and they are looking at that as a potential revenue source to maintain.
If you didn't live in the county or possibly in the district, you pay.
Right. Well, the other thing you got to keep in mind, as far as fines concerned, if you, like for instance, the county has gotten fine grant funding, the city's gotten fine grant funding. So if you take money from us, you can't discriminate against, let's say you can't charge someone that lives in the county less than someone who doesn't live in the county.
But we could do it countywide.
Well, I think it's really, the county has most of the boat ramps, so it's really their issue. They're kicking it around and have discussed it. It's a dynamic situation based on, like for instance, I'll give you an example. The latest thing that just happened, they spoke about how the funding for derelict boats has been wiped out or been swept. What basically happened was the county receives a portion of the registration fees when people go and register their boat. The state has basically cut the amount of the county's share of those registration fees. So, and the county hasn't quite figured out, they're in the process of figuring what that economic impact's going to be. So that could play into whether they decide to try to charge a fee at the boat ramps. So,
Thank you.
but to answer your question, I think the trick is, or not the trick, but the issue is the county controls most of the boat ramps or owns most of them, so they would be the entity that would charge the fee. The tricky part is the city has one boat ramp, and so if the county starts charging at their boat ramp, the city's going to have to address that issue. Of course, otherwise, everybody's going to descend on the city's boat ramp because it's free.
Right.
So those are some of the issues.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Carl.
Very good. Any other public comment? Seeing nothing. Comments by commissioners? Mr. Way?
The only thing I want to do is get something on the agenda for the next meeting is, we've discussed this before, is looking at that money that we have in reserve, maybe getting some input into what's the right amount of money to have in there. I know, Carl, we had talked about this in the past, and you could probably shed some light on it, maybe you could give it some thought, but there may be some funds that are in that reserve that could be better used somewhere else rather than just sitting there. So that's just something.
You can't invest it, so it'd have to be.
Oh, no, I know
You're
that, but
talking
I
about-
mean, as far as
Yeah.
boat ramps or doing things.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know,
think
that's
you
just
guys
something.
talked about this as $1 million.
Yeah, because we have $1.6 million in there now, is that
Keep as a
correct?
reserve.
Anyway, that's just something I put on the agenda for the next time.
Great.
You want to put that on next month's agenda?
Sure.
Reserve
Yeah, if you mind,
amount?
yeah.
Okay.
No comments from me. Commissioner Flowers?
Yes, I'd like to put on next month's agenda as well, a discussion of proper procedure for replacing channel markers.
Procedure for.
For an
channel markers?
actual procedure,
Hold on.
things like the channel marker must be reported by law enforcement, not just the chairman, things like that. And for example, we've got several different companies that are willing to replace those on a regular basis for no more than $750 for the labor. If for some reason the pile is completely trashed, it's only $200 for that. And that could, there are 2 or 3 other businesses right here, and when I called them, they've never been called by the port. But one of them was glad to even negotiate lower than that, just for the privilege of working for the port. So that would, if we got ourselves a proper procedure that it has to be seen by, we have 2 full-time law enforcement reported to the commission, so we know it's been seen and it's down, what the position is. And also not just discuss possible, a good procedure for that, and getting into a contract that's saving us a lot of money. Next time something goes down, I just finished a 500-mile trip on my own sailboat, and it looks like other governments are putting in steel I-beams, concrete. I can tell you, you can look in front of bridges and pilings they've had a problem with. They don't have a problem with them anymore. You can even put one pile with lots of other piles going around it to protect it. So next time, especially marker 3 goes down, we should replace it for it never go down again, because it's been a dramatic drain. And at like I said, at $10,000. So if we could put, if it's possible to put that discussion of a procedure for replacing pilings on the next meeting.
Okay.
And when you're talking about that money, are you talking about looking for a big old boat ramp that we need? Possibly using some of the money that we're saving to do a boat ramp? We're looking at it. Could you put that on there as possibly discussing?
I think we can discuss
Okay.
anything. I think the main thing we need to establish, first of all, is what our surplus is, if any, and then once we know that, we can start
Okay.
thinking about potential projects for it. Tom, any comment?
Yeah, I want to congratulate you as chairman, and I want to thank those commissioners who allowed me to sit in this much more comfortable chair.
Thank you, Tom. And Jane?
No comment.
Great. Well, our next meeting is going to be the
December
15th, December the 15th at 3 p.m. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
I have a lot of material and the figures I compiled
Clay?
to give to the legislators. I've got a folder somewhere.
Okay.
And